guys, it's Mondays with Sawyer Tate, and this week's topic is queerness in the classroom, or just being queer in a classroom, just the general topic of like LGBT in classroom situations. And I actually wanted to do this topic because we did this topic in a discussion in my club here on campus, that is Rainbow Alliance, and it really struck home with me, just kind of sort of being that one out of 20 or 30 that is different, and knowing that difference, even if other people don't know, whatever the situation might be, and sort of how it's covered in classes and how it's not covered in classes. So, in high school, being queer in a classroom is more situational than a topic of discussion. A lot of times, as I went to a Catholic high school, we would be able to choose our own, sort of like our own discussion topic. We'd have to give a presentation in some classes, and I found that I always chose sort of an LGBT topic for that, just so that I could put that 2 cents in, have that as a topic in a classroom, and just sort of, I was privileged as to where I living in the Bay Area, whereas I could bring that into a classroom and people would be okay with it, and people would be like, oh yeah, gay marriage should be a thing. That's not a big deal. Just sort of that whole thing. It's near and dear to my heart, obviously, and to have that experience and to be able to have that was such a privilege for me. But I know if I had gone to school in my hometown rather than at the private school that I went to, it wouldn't have been that way. I would have struggled with that. I wouldn't have been given that opportunity. And now I am at a Jesuit university in one of the most diverse cities in America, and we don't have a gender studies major, and honestly that bothers me. But we have classes that are like, in the theology department, I know they have a queer theology class. I know we have a lot of gender studies classes. I think we even have psychology classes that cover it. And I've heard that even in one of the queer science classes, that's not what they talk about. There's a queer literature class that I've heard that they don't really read literature that are about queer kids. It's about kids that are just like weird in that sort of definition of queer, but not actually kids who are LGBT defined as queer. And it's sort of this struggle and balance between what's okay in this Jesuit setting. At my school, before I was here, our events couldn't even have queer in the title. So we have a queer prom every year, and we couldn't call it queer prom because they didn't want the word queer associated with the school. And it's just sort of this balance between what's okay and what's not okay has been a struggle. And being someone who's gone to a Catholic high school and now a Jesuit university, it's really, really hard. Whereas if I was going to like NYU, it'd be a lot easier. But even then, you have a classroom with people from all different places, and it's sort of juggling like what their opinions might be on the topic even, and what their opinions might be on you after you share your own opinion. You never know going into it what people are going to think of you. And society is getting there, and we are reaching a new point where gay marriage is no longer banned all over, and a bunch of states can now have same-sex marriage, and it's like, it's progressing and it's getting better and it's getting better. but it's not there yet, and people still don't understand trans issues. People still don't understand the gender spectrum as a whole. People still don't understand gender fluidity and androgyny, and it's just sort of the struggle of understanding that there is more than just this binary. And honestly, it's so hard struggling with being transmasculine and knowing that I am not binary identified, and yet having to identify with the binary just so people will understand that that is what I'm going for. Like, this is sort of my end goal, and they have to understand that I'm going from point A to point B, yes, but then I can't trust them to understand that I do not stop at point B. My life does not stop at point B. And I don't know if I can trust everyone to understand that I do not stop at point B, because for them, all there is point A and point B, and there is no in between. I went to high school with someone who had, I forget what it's called, when you have two X chromosomes and a Y chromosome, and he was such a lovely person, and he only told his closest friends about it, and he identifies as a gay man, but he, in all extensive purposes, is not necessarily in himself a man, and we've talked about this, and he does not feel that he needs to identify with the binary, because that's not what he was born into. And just sort of having to, like, explain that to someone is so hard, and it's so difficult, because that's not what it's, like, biologically not what he has. Like, he is not just a man, he is beyond that. Like, people don't understand that there's more than just men and women out there, and, like, people are getting to the place where they understand what a transsexual is, and people are getting to the place where they understand that the T word is not okay, and they're understanding, and I'm generalizing here, because there are many people who still have very, like, large problem with transsexuals, and they still use the wrong words, and they are very against us. And I understand that it's still a huge problem, but there's much better acknowledgement and much, like, better understanding than there used to be. But, like, to try and explain in any classroom setting that someone is not within the binary of male and female, it's hard not only for the people to understand, but it's hard for someone to explain. And just, like, having to explain it to 20 or 30 people who maybe you don't know very well, or maybe you're never going to know very well, maybe you don't even know their name. Like, you have this one class with them, and you may never see them again. Like, you may see them in the hall or whatever. But, like, having to explain it to one person is hard enough. It's not your place to have to explain all of queer theory to a classroom just because they don't understand who you are. I feel like we are progressing, but the point we are progressing towards may not necessarily be the point that we need to get to. We need to get to a place where people just are. And it's so hard, because how do you live in a world where pronouns aren't a norm? Like, to think about that, where pronouns aren't just assumed. And, like, I understand how difficult that would be, but that is the ideal. Anyways, that's my queer in the classroom. It was a little rant that I went on. I apologize. I'll see you guys next Monday. Keep sending in audition videos. We love you. Bye.